Great Uniben. Take a look at society, every sector, industry. You see undeniably, we dominate all the fields. Bashala, RMD, Basket Mountain, Johnny Drew. Harmony or Poly, just a name but a few. Great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben. Hello, viewers. Merry Christmas to our viewers all around the globe. Welcome to another episode of the Uniben Alumni Series. As you know, this is the show where we celebrate distinguished alumni of the great University of Benin, men and women that have gone through the institution. They tell us their journey and they try to inspire the current student and also the younger alumni. And on today's episode, we have a scholar with us today. He is a former research associate, politics and governance program at the ODI Global, United Kingdom. He was also a junior technical advisor at the Bayelsa State Oil and Environmental Commission in London. He's an African Initiative for Governance scholar as well. He's Tobe Nneli. Thank you, Tobe, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's delve into the conversation today. I'm privileged to know some information about you, and I know you didn't have your secondary education in Benin. You didn't grow up in Benin as well. So why the choice of University of Benin for your tertiary institution, for your tertiary education?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I mean, anything that has to do with University of Benin, it's very dear to my heart because I tell anyone that cares to listen that phase of my life has redefined what has happened ever since then in so many ways. And I believe in the course of these conversations, I will share some of the experiences.
Yeah.
Why did I choose University of Benin? Because of political science and public administration. That's the short answer. Yes, that's why.
Okay. Why was it so special? Political science and public administration.
So I mean, I tell everybody that cares to listen that I chose to study political science and public administration above, first of all, chemical engineering, secondly, law, and then finally accountancy. So what happened was that after my so first of all, I did my secondary school in the East in Onitsha. I grew up in Onitsha, and after my SS1, that time when you have to choose between arts and science classes, my performance, I mean, I think I was the best in physics in my class. And my dad was like, you are definitely going to be a chemical engineer, work in NMPC and co. And I agreed with him when he said that. And when school resumed, I just simply went to art class because I love whatever that has to do with governance, history, literature. Those were my best subjects. So I told him that I didn't have to struggle, that I struggled a lot to pass physics and chemistry and co. I know I will pass, but government, history, stuff like that, they come natural to me. So I never struggled with them. So, and then fast forward to my SS3, I mean, I won that particular battle. My SS3, he said, okay, since you don't want to be a chemical engineer, then you be a lawyer. And I said, okay, no problem. But when it was time for JAM, I told him that I just can't be a lawyer. I want to study a 4-year course and then be done with it. And then he says, so what do you want to study? I said, political science. What was that? Like, he didn't agree with me. So we now came to a compromise of me applying for accountancy. So I applied for accountancy in Uniben, actually. So already, political science and poverty has already attracted me to Uniben. And when we negotiated and they said, okay, middle ground, do a 4-year course that makes you a professional, quote unquote, accountancy. So I agreed. I wrote JAM. I think I had 238 in JAM. Of course, I had mathematics in that JAM, of course. But when it was time for post-semi, this was 2008, I told him I wouldn't go for the post-semi. I don't want to study accounting. I want to study political science and public administration. And The man just couldn't know what to do again. I mean, I'm the one, you're not going to drag me to an example. So I chose not to go for the post-UME that year. I chose to spend 1 year and just go for what I wanted. So the following year, I mean, at this point, he knew he couldn't just fight anymore. So I applied for post science, post admin, wrote JAM, wrote post-UME, not knowing anybody, and that's it. Voila. I was admitted to Uniben. So
interesting how you won that battle. So then University of Benin had this combined honors, political science. So was that another attraction for you?
In fact, that was the first thing that attracted me, because I mean, so why I chose Benin was because they had a combined honors of political science and public administration. And then when I was in secondary school, I was the school librarian for about 3 years. So every day I get access to newspapers. So my school gets 3 dailies every day, and it's kept with me. I put it where students have to read, and then I curate at the end. So I knew so much about what was going on in Nigeria, because every single day I have to read what's going on.
Yeah.
So when I saw that in JAM brochure that there was a university that combined political science and public administration, it was very attractive. In fact, what I didn't mention was that initially my father didn't see any need for me to go to Benin. He was even scared. I mean, you know, as they say, like, if you go to Benin, you join these boys and you mess up your life. So he was encouraging me to even go to like the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, or even Oka, for example. But I told him that if University of Benin is combining this thing, there must be a reason for it. And that's why I'm choosing it. So yeah, that's it. The combined honors was very attractive for me, and I found that very, very helpful in my journey.
Okay. You made a first class at the end of the program.
Yeah.
Did you set out to make a first class from inception, from 100 level?
So that's also another. I mean, I think I have a lot of stories from Uniben, right? When we resumed, and you know what I'm saying, when we started 100 level. So I mean, as I said, I've been excited about the course. So I came to the department the first day, and I saw the class before us, the set before us. I saw their results pasted. So I saw the results was bloody, as we used to say those days, like bloody, right? So I was like, guy, what have you done to yourself? Like, this department seems like going to be a very tough one. Are you sure you're going to survive it? So I just promised myself that since I've managed to convince my dad not to be a chemical engineer, an accountant, and a lawyer, I better just pass. So it wasn't. I just told myself I don't want to have this if a daft, that kind of results. Like when I just wanted this whereby I'm going to get like 2-1, like do very well in school. That was honestly, that was it. So because the result I saw before that result I saw, there was no first class there, so it wasn't even an issue. So my point was, if this department has this type of bloody result, mine is not going to be like this. I'm just going to pass. That was it. But then what that meant as well is that I had to now introduce some sort of routine, because that's the only way, in my opinion, I could do that. So every single day I must dedicate 1 or 2 hours to study whatever has been taught, or what they're going to teach the following week or something. So I started doing that because I didn't want to fail, not because I wanted to have a first class, right? But then by the time, and I stayed in Hall 4, by the way, from 100 level. So how uncomfortable the space is another reason for you to go for night class, amongst other things. So by the time they pasted our 100 level results, and I saw I had 15 A's out of 17, like, that was when I knew that, okay, now I see that first class.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah.
Okay. Our class, the 2012-2013 graduating class, we made 4 first class. 4 individuals made first class. And before then, it was rumored that the department might not award every one of you the deserving students. But after after Senate had approved and it was pasted, the list, did that serve as a confidence boost for you that you can trust the system to award deserving students?
Honestly, I won't feel that our class was so good that it could have been more.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, because I know at least 2 individuals that had like 4.4 something in the class. So and I always tell people this: it's not just about having first class, like the name for first class or the tag. It's also what you are able to do with it. Those 4 persons you mentioned and the other persons I refer to are people I know that whether they had first class written on their certificate or not, they were definitely going to thrive in life. But then, to answer your question in terms of like the system, trusting in the system, I think I'm going to give a lot of credit to some of our lecturers within the department, particularly Professor Wade. I mean, who was the HOD at
Little Betty, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, God rest his soul. What I heard from the grapevine was that it kind of caused a stir within the department and even in the faculty. Like, how could you have 4 persons have a first class? And before them, I think it was about cumulatively like 4. The whole from 1970 or so up until it was right. And then to turn out 4 sounded like it was too much. So, and from what I heard, I mean, this can be verified by our professors, maybe those who are in the room. Ogbede said that he needed to think about it when people raised those things. So, and I learned that one of the things he did was to ask for our scripts from 100 level up until final, just to see what has happened over the years. And he saw that he's in his own course. I think he's thorough statistics. He saw that the 4 of us also had A's in that course. So it sort of made him more confident. He was like, he's going to defend his results up until Senate, and this is just what I heard, anyways. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did that, because Professor Wade in different ways mentor some of us and encourage us to be best at whatever we do. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move away a bit from academics. Let's go to your school politics.
Okay.
I think that's one story that we all were involved, and it was not something that was very pleasing to us at the end. You brought yourself forward to contest for the position of Secretary General of the Students' Union, and you were not cleared to participate in that election. How did you receive that unfortunate, I'll call it unfortunate news as a day?
Yes. I mean, of course, naturally, I felt really bad about it. And I felt bad not because I lost an election. I felt bad because some persons just sat down and decided to systematically remove people who they felt were threats. I mean, that's how I interpreted it. But then I tell people that that's one of the best things that happened to me. And I will explain. Because so first of all, in 200 level, I picked interest in school politics. A friend of mine, very close friend of mine, Innocent Okotubu, was contesting for welfare. He asked me to manage his campaigns, and I did that. So from that point, I started thinking about, serving at that level, being the Secretary General of the Student Union. And I started campaigning. I went to all the halls of residence, both Ekama campus, Ubo campus. But of course, that took a toll on my academics. That level was my worst result in the rest of Benin. Like that was the only level that I didn't have a first class. I had high 2-1, but like it wasn't good, because I had to run around. But my point is that I put in so much effort into that, because I felt that the art of governance, there's this thing that people say about political scientists or people who just theorize. I wanted to apply myself to the political process beyond what I know I wanted to engage in politics. So I decided to do that through that process. But then after all the hard work and the encouragement, because people really encouraged me, and that's even what made me feel very bad, because people actually applied themselves to the process and they wanted to support me. But then, just 1 week to the election, some people said you are disqualified, and I asked validly. I asked, "What am I being disqualified for? Is it that am I pardon my French? Am I a cultist, or have I done anything that suggests that I will be a problem to my fellow students or to the university?" And there was no response. I'll go back to the same person I mentioned earlier, Professor Bede. It was HOD. I went to him. I went to meet with him and said, "Prof, see what's going on. I'm really sad about this. I want to fight this, And he called me. He said, "Young man, you have a bright future." Part of the things you also need to learn about politics is that it's not all about winning. It's not all about having your way. It's the process as well, because it teaches you a lot of things. And in retrospect, I think I learned a lot from that process. So it taught me. He told me that yes, you can decide to go join students and conduct riots and make noise around campus, but it might not be the best thing for you at this point. Maybe you should actually consider taking some time off and just reflecting on what you want to do as you move to your final year. That was the best advice anybody could have given me. And what I simply did was I just kind of took a step back, not because I was scared of engaging the authorities at that point, but because I got a very valid advice. I know I've learned from that process of campaigning and all, because we campaigned for over 3 months. So yeah. I'm very happy about it. So, and that's what I did. So I decided to just take a step back. Yes, I was sad about what has happened. I know it was unjust, but at the same time, I have learned from it. And then, that's taking a step back also now helped me to bounce back, right? I was able to now focus purely on my academics during the final year and had a first class in the final year as well. And if not for that, I think if I become a SUG Sec-Gen, I think I would have struggled. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about takeaways. What you took from the institution, what you outside the academics, definitely. Yeah, what are those attributes you hold on to till today and felt Uniben actually gave me this? At the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that Uniben redefines you. So can you let us know in what ways did Uniben redefine you?
I think one of the most important things I took away from Uniben is not actually just having a first class. It was the relationships. That's for me, because it taught me how to relate to people who, first of all, are not from, that don't identify or agree with me. So, for example, my ethnic group, my church, religion, stuff like that. Uniben really helped me. In fact, it was in Uniben that I became reborn in that sense. And I'll tell you why. So, as I said, during my 100 level, I stayed in Hall 4.
Yeah.
I know people, like staying in school hostel.
Yeah.
Friends will come and squads. There are times when we are like 17 boys in my room, like
from different backgrounds, from
different background. And
yeah.
that was the first place I met Nigeria properly, because as I told you, I did all my life. Before, the first time I crossed the Niger was to come to Uniben. So I've never been to Lagos even. So it's just been, in fact, not even Asaba. So it's always been Onitsha and the whole of Southeast. So coming to University of Benin, having up to 16 roommates, both official and unofficial, who were all from different parts of Nigeria. From northern Nigeria, South is blessed to have different ethnic groups. So you have Isoko, Edo, Yoruba, Benin, it's so much. In fact, in that room, we were only three Igbo boys. And even out of the three of us, I was the only one that could speak like my own dialect, because the two other boys grew up in Lagos, so they can't speak Igbo. So the first that happened to me was I learned how to speak Pidgin. I learned how to speak, to not just use my language, and also to see how hardworking people could be. So one of the things that really helped me as well was that I had these two guys in my class who were Chevron scholars. So one was on Shell Scholarship, the other one was on MTN, the other one was on Chevron. They were all in engineering. But you see how hard these boys used to work. So it also taught me like hard work. So that routine of you have to study, right? And you also have to learn how to tolerate others. It wasn't all fun throughout. We had our differences in the room. But over time, you just understand that relationship is a currency. And for me, that's the most important thing I took away from Uniben. Up until now, a lot of things I've been able to achieve, even after Uniben, are built on relationships. And some of them are even the ones I developed while in Uniben. So I would say it helped to redefine my understanding of what matters in life. And for me, it's about relationships.
Okay. There's this usual saying that for scholars like yourself, your routine in school is usually from the classroom to your hostel to maybe your religious activity and all that. It's usually a triangle. That is what they usually say. But for you, I don't think that applies to you absolutely, because I knew you were engaged in other activities, social life, and all that. Can you let us know some of these activities you engaged in while as a student?
Yeah, I think one of the things that helped me, first of all, was that I studied a course I loved. So studying wasn't a chore per se. It was just part of my lifestyle, because I just enjoyed reading those things. So it wasn't a problem. But then in terms of since I participated in while in school, first of all, it's student union politics, first of all, because and from our class itself to the department, faculty, and then up to the SUG level as well. So that's one of them. The church activities I wasn't fully involved in church activities, but at least I attended. In fact, at some point I was attending, but I'm a Catholic. I was attending mass every morning. So, and it's not because I'm a saint or anything. It's just part of the routine, and I enjoyed doing that. In terms of then I was actively a member of the Rotary Club of University of Benin. Rotar's Club of University of Benin, and in fact, at some point I was the community service director. So we did lots of sensitization around campus. We did road shows and a couple of things as well. Yeah, so these are some of the things I kind of did while we were in school. There, of course, I also took part in the sort of like the association of folks from my state, but not just more or less like a member. I think the things I really prioritized while in school was my studies, my politics as an activity, Rotary Club, and then to some extent church activities. And of course, I had friends, and I mean, whenever I needed to, I attended parties and yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about your post-Uniben era. In 2018-19, you won the AIG Scholarship. That's the African Initiative for Governance Scholarship, which is a brainchild of a distinguished alumni of our university, Agboje Mokwede. What motivated you to apply for this scholarship, especially taking into consideration the clause associated with the scholarship that you must return back to Nigeria, to use your knowledge, to use the learning to support reforms and contribute to national development after the one-year program at the University of Oxford? Because I think there are other scholarships out there that you could have gone for, yeah, and without such a clause. Most people do not want to come back to Nigeria, yes, and it's okay, it's fair for them. But you chose this and you won it, which is highly competitive. You did, and what motivated you to go in for this scholarship?
So I mean, my journey when it comes to scholarships has been in lots of ups and downs. One of the first decisions I made after Uniben was that I was going to be a lecturer. First of all, before any other thing, that was my plan. And secondly, I convinced myself that I must do a master's degree, because if I'm going to be a lecturer, I need to have a master's at the very least, so that I can be maybe like an assistant lecturer and all. And of course, at some point, do a PhD. So it was there in my mind. So, but what that meant as well was that I needed to be applying for scholarships. I started applying for scholarships from 2014, different ones, different opportunities. Sometimes some of them worked out, some of them I wasn't very successful. Sometimes I just get to the final stage and it wasn't successful. But to answer your question with the AIG Scholarship, it's when I saw that application, I knew that was exactly what I needed. Because personally, I have always been interested in public leadership, and that's why, I could create time to participate in student union politics. So for me, public leadership is really important, and it's actually it's at the core of whatever development that Nigeria can achieve in the future. So I felt it was a very unique opportunity to not just get world-class education at Oxford University, but also to be mentored by people who really are keen about Nigeria's development. And most importantly, this is our own. Like, this is a Nigerian committing significant resources, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To home. So for me, it was in fact, I don't even see it as a problem at all if I have to go back to Nigeria, because Nigeria is actually our home. So no matter where I find myself tomorrow, Nigeria is my home. So it wasn't a problem at all for me to opt for that. And in retrospect, I think it's one of the best decisions of my life as well. Like, that I chose that over any other opportunity that has come my way. Because, as I said, public leadership is really important. And those who are either the best or they hope to be the best from our country should always think of home, no matter what. Because, while the world is a global village, we can all function wherever we find ourselves. I think that thought of home is very important. And for me, it was a no-brainer. I was very happy to do that, and I enjoyed that experience.
Okay. You just mentioned that you after Uniben, you wanted to become a lecturer. Currently, you are doing your PhD in politics. Is that still the plan, to see impact through that means?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I've seen that it's not always about boxing yourself in only one corner. You could actually do a lot, not just by being called lecturer by that title. I am absolutely interested in teaching any day, anytime. But part of the experience I've gained in the last 10 years is also around international development, like practice itself. It's also around public policy making. And if being a lecturer means completely forgetting these areas I mentioned, then no. But if being a lecturer means still being, facilitating that synergy between the town and the gown, and working in a university, but also actively, engaging, because one of the challenges we have with our education system is that sometimes it's not very practice-based. It's lots of theories. So I see myself as someone who has been blessed with that unique opportunity of, being in the field, working in international development, but at the same time, having what it takes to also teach in a university. I think that's a unique opportunity, and I'd like to take that when the opportunity presents itself. But it wouldn't be to just choose only one and then forget about the other one.
No. Okay. Lastly, in one of your publications, an institution in search of identity, the local government systems in Nigeria. I think you did this publication in 2018. And recently, in July, I think July 11th this year, the Supreme Court granted financial autonomy to our local government areas, the 774. This also, and it's something historic for us because of the importance and proximity between the people and the local government and councils. But some Nigerians are not really excited about this because they feel this would make the local government attract more desperate politicians who want to use the office to enrich themselves. What's your take on this?
I think there still needs to be some level of autonomy at the local government level. Currently I'm at King's College London, so I also live in London. And you would agree with me that the council is very important. A lot of development that's happening is at the council. So on paper, it is really important for the local government to have some level of autonomy and carry out some specific responsibility because they're the closest to the people. However, given the political culture that has happened over the years in Nigeria, just throwing money at local governments is not going to solve it. I feel it's just going to encourage, as you rightly said, people with questionable character or people who don't mind going dirty just to get access to that money. So it becomes an issue of access to money. And this is not peculiar to local governments. Unfortunately, at almost all levels of our politics, you find this type of characters. But the challenge for local governments is that you now have it will become so many that it will even be more difficult to handle. My personal opinion on the issue of local government autonomy is that I think federal government should stop dictating to states whether it's the number of local government they should have or how they should run their local affairs. Let this be a relationship between the federal government and the subnationals, the states. The states by themselves should now decide what actually works for them. If they need to have 50 local governments to develop, it is their problem. And of course, the idea of tax for service, the idea of people being accountable can now be more promoted. I'm all for, encouraging Nigerians at the subnational level to take on more responsibilities and become accountable for those responsibilities. It's not going to diminish the influence or the importance of the federal government, but I think if development is going to happen in our country, the subnationals, particularly the states, needs to be at the forefront of it. So of course, supported by local governments. But then the challenge would be this issue of political leadership, and that's where I'd encourage anybody who is keen about development to go into politics at all levels in Nigeria. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tobe. I really appreciate you for getting time to speak to us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Tobe Nneli, a Africa Initiative for Governance scholar and a first-class graduate of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, University of Benin. Continue to share our videos as we continue to motivate young people about the paths to go. Thank you. Bye for now. 1970, we sure we did the forefront. Knowledge for self-peace, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law.